Welcome back, YouTube family. I'm here today in my Dogtooth t-shirt to talk about a director that I really admire and respect and who's probably one of my favorite filmmakers of all time, and that director is Yorgos Lanthimos. So I was introduced to Yorgos Lanthimos films watching The Lobster, and I am someone who's really into absurdist dark comedy. When I was growing up as a kid, I loved fucking Tim and Eric. I love Check It Out with Steve Brule. I'm a big fan now of the Eric Andre Show. I really like dark, subversive, and unnatural comedy that comes from performance and from facial expression and from delivery. And Yorgos Lanthimos does that better than probably any filmmaker out there. I love the way that he conveys his movies. I love the unnatural element to his dialogue. I think that the way he combines brutality with true comedy is fantastic. And he's just one of the most promising and interesting filmmakers working. That's what I love about his material. And so today I'm going to be ranking his entire filmography with the exception of Kynodontas, which I still have not seen. I know most people have said that it's his weakest work. I don't know why I've never got around to watching it. Maybe because I love all of his material so wholeheartedly that it's difficult for me to watch something that's been so poorly received from him. But I'm gonna be ranking the rest of his films. Right now he's got 5 feature films that I've seen, and I'm gonna rank them from my least favorite to my favorite. This is really difficult because I genuinely love every single one of these movies. I don't really have a lot of complaints with any of them. I think they're all really excellent in their own right. Each story is so unique and phenomenally portrayed that trying to rank these was really difficult because I feel like at any moment they could change, they could go up, down, and it's just kind of arbitrary. This is my raving endorsement to watch all of Yorgos's films because I think he's a fucking genius, and I really cannot wait to see what else this man puts out. Coming in at number 5 is Alps, which is one of his earlier works. I think that it's a movie that sometimes I watch a movie and I feel like, oh, this has been made specifically for me, and this is one of those movies. It has a very bizarre subject matter. It's about a group of actors who get together and they form this company, and someone loses a loved one and they die. They go to their house, they dress up as this person, and they start to live their lives with these people as if they're that dead person. And what you get is your traditional Yorgos Lanthimos weird moments. Our lead character, whose name I would horribly mispronounce if I tried to say it, gets the job of taking over for a young girl who passes away that is in high school, and she's on the tennis team. And so you have these moments where she's like in the dad's lap, holding her like she's his kid, and you just have this really unnatural moments between these people. And what's so jarring about it is that they're obviously not really family. And so you have this exploration of grief that's portrayed in a sense that people are getting what they want, so to speak. They're getting the ability to live sort of with their kids or their spouse or their grandparent again in a very different way, and how people process that grief. And that's what I like about Yorgos, is he's looking at the world through a lens of, hey, this is something that people want. Like, if you lose a loved one, you want to see them again. So let's give it to them, but in a way that makes sense, that doesn't defy the supernatural. Like, someone could actually do this. You have to be insane, but someone could actually do this, and repercussions of those actions and the negative things that occur. As per most of Yorgos's filmmaking, it's shot beautifully. I love his cinematography. He reminds me of Kubrick. He really likes to use wide-angle lenses, especially when I talk about Killing of the Sacred Deer later. He likes to give his actors a lot of headspace. There's great close-ups. I love the way he shoots close-ups. His movies are just so beautifully crafted, and this is no exception. I love all the scores to his movies. They all have this really weird ambiance to them that really makes you feel uncomfortable as an audience member. This movie makes you laugh at a lot of shit that you feel like you should never be laughing at, but you do anyway. And yeah, I really like this movie a lot, and it's hard to put it in last place because I think it's really great, but I think the other 4 movies ahead of it on the list are better. Coming in at number 4, which I'm sure this is gonna be heresy to a lot of people, is Yorgos Lanthimos' most recent film, The Favourite. One of the greatest performances I've ever seen from Olivia Colman as Queen Anne, who just is absolutely absurd, over the top, ridiculous. I love how dynamic her performance is, as far as going from really liking her to really hating her in a very short amount of time. And it takes a specific type of actress for that, and Olivia Colman is top tier. She is one of my favorite actresses working in Hollywood. I will literally watch anything that she does. She is so great. I remember, I talked about this in my Edgar Wright video, but even like in that part of her career when she was in Hot Fuzz and she's just like a side character, the delivery, the commitment to the performance, just in everything that she does, she's fucking amazing. She does an incredible job in this movie. Obviously, you have 2 amazing actresses with Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz, who both give amazing performances, looking at this time period through the perspective of women, the power dynamics between these women, fighting between Rachel Weisz and Emma Stone about getting close to Queen Anne, who's going to be the person who she puts the most trust in, who she's going to care about the most. Emma Stone's character coming from poverty and working her way up to where she's getting close to them, the relationships that build between these people, and the sexual chemistry between them, the backstabbing that occurs. There's a lot of great elements in this movie that I love, and I don't want to detract from how great of a movie this is by the fact it's in 4th place. I'm just a freak who likes really weird, abstract cinema, and this is one of Yorgos's least weird movies. I feel like, you know, there's obviously, it has his trademark, there's a lot of dark comedy in it, there's some great moments that really work well. I don't want to take that away from this movie. I just really like his abstract cinema when he's taking on these really disturbing concepts and putting those on screen, and I think that those are more effective to me. Not to say that I don't think The Favourite isn't effective. I think it's a great movie. I think it's some of his best cinematography. The fact that this movie was lit all by natural light and they did not use any lighting equipment to make it feel period accurate to the time that the movie takes place in, he's a fucking nut. Because as someone who's in film school, trying to light a room with just candles is gonna be a bitch, and it's gonna be hard to make it feel natural, and this movie feels like you're looking at a painting. I actually have one of the still images from this movie framed in my house, because I just think everything about it is beautiful to look at. These rooms that have artwork from the floor to the ceiling. It's just the production design, the quality of the production design, the costume designs in this movie. It's perfect. I think that, I personally believe that Yorgos Lanthimos has not made a bad film. I don't really have any qualms with any of his work. They just speak to me in a very specific way. I know they don't work for everyone, but this movie is fantastic and I would highly recommend it. And number 3 is Killing of a Sacred Deer. This is a wild experience. This movie goes off the rails to where I was laughing at things that I feel like human beings probably shouldn't laugh at in this type of circumstance. It's a testament to how great of a filmmaker Yorgos Lanthimos is, that he can take a subject, person putting a curse on your family essentially, and that you gotta kill one of your family members or they're all gonna die, and they slowly start to fall apart. And these scenes where his kids are dragging themselves through the house because they can't walk, and I'm in the theater with about 8 other people and I'm laughing my ass off at these kids pulling themselves through the house, and people are probably like, you're a sick fuck. That's what I really like about Yorgos, is that he takes these subject matters and just gives you the ability to laugh, and the lack of music and scenes and the editing and the way that it's portrayed makes it all the better. Plus you've got fucking Colin Farrell and Nicole Kidman giving just incredible performances. And like I said, the cinematography in this movie, very Kubrickian, if that's even a word. But yeah, very much like Stanley Kubrick. There's a lot of headspace in this movie. There's a lot of people who talk about this movie being based on mythology and a very specific story in mythology. You could look at it as leaving the space for the gods to see what is going on down below. But yeah, it's a story of Colin Farrell's a surgeon. He got a botched surgery. A kid shows up to start talking to him. One of the surgeries that he botched was a family member of his. Barry Keoghan, who plays the kid, is like fucking terrifying. His presence, and he's always there. And Colin Farrell, as the movie progresses, just hates him more and more, to where he wants to kill the kid, but he knows that if he kills him, that he's never gonna figure out what's gonna happen. And he has these 2 young kids and a wife, and he's like, well, who the fuck am I gonna kill? I have to kill one of these people if the rest of them want to survive. And you have that ticking clock element mixed in with all these really weird moments when these people's health start falling apart. And it really is a suspenseful thrill ride. And it's got a little over a 2-hour runtime, but it's over quick. And it's because you're constantly on the edge of your seat. And when that 3rd act kicks in, it's fucking relentless. And I really enjoyed seeing this in a theater. I got to see Killing of a Sacred Deer and The Favorite in the theaters. The rest of his movies I've seen at home, but experiencing a Lanthimos film on screen and a theater was amazing, especially with how great the cinematography is in this movie. And I cannot praise this movie enough. It's fantastic. More people need to see it. I understand Lanthimos' work is not for everyone. Killing of a Sacred Deer especially, very tonally different, very dark and disturbing. But that's why it's coming in at number 3 on my list. Coming in at number 2 is Dogtooth. I really liked this movie a lot. I think it's some of his most absurd material. You have this concept of a father who's kept his children trapped in a house their whole lives, to where he doesn't really want them to know what sex is or anything about the world, doesn't let them watch movies, doesn't expose them to art, nothing, because he wants complete and total control over these kids. This explores incest, which it's like very disturbing, but it's also really interesting to explore the psychology of this person. Bringing in women for this man to sleep with. One of the women who gets introduced is actually interested in one of the daughters. You have this really weird, like, a love rhombus that occurs. You have this dad who refers to vaginas as keyboards, which that element of the film is hilarious. There's this dance number in the movie that like cracks me up every time. And what's interesting is you really do feel deep compassion for these characters, because they're going through a horrible experience, and they're being controlled by this manipulative and awful person who doesn't want their kids to experience the world, and thinks that the only way for them to grow up to be the people he wants them to be is to keep them super sheltered by telling them that their cat is this vicious monster who will destroy them if they leave their house. And the only way you ever get to leave is if you lose your dog tooth, which really isn't even a thing that exists. And there's this scene, and this is my raving endorsement of the movie, but there's a scene where he says, I want to play an album for you from your uncle who loves you so much and wants to tell you how much he cares about you. And he puts on a Frank Sinatra record, and every time I see it, it just makes me laugh really hard. And it's really well executed, and it's hilarious. It's disturbing. Like I said, I don't really know how much more I can say to say go watch this movie. I don't want to give too much away about it, because just seeing it occur on screen is enough to make you want to watch it again. And it's a fantastic movie. I think it's a masterpiece. The only reason why it's in my number 2 spot is because I think the number 1 spot is a little bit better for me, just a hair. But yeah, Dogtooth is number 2. Coming in at number 1, if you've been paying attention, is The Lobster. I adore The Lobster. I think it's one of the best movies ever made, probably in my top 10 of all time. I think Colin Farrell gives one of the best performances of his whole career. I love Rachel Weisz in this movie. I think she's fantastic. Gal Gadot's in it. She's always incredible in every movie that she's in. I just think this is a performance-driven masterpiece. John C. Reilly shows up in it, who I admire more than anything in the world as Steve Brule, but I think that he's a phenomenal actor. And you get the best performances out of these people. Like Killing of a Sacred Deer and Dogtooth and most of his work, the dialogue is delivered so blandly and just like unnatural, to where you're like, no human being would ever speak to people like this. They would never act that way towards other people. And just the way that it feels and the way the dialogue comes out makes you just feel kind of like uneasy and like, oh, these people, they would never be real. You would never believe that this is how a human being would act. And that's what I like about his movies. And this movie has the most unnatural of all his dialogue. If you've never seen it, it's a story of Colin Farrell's married and his wife has a divorce with him. And as soon as they have the divorce, the government shows up and puts him in a van, takes him to this hotel and says, you have a month to find a significant other. And if you do not find this significant other, you're going to be turned into the animal of your choice and released into the wild. The thing about the movie is, when they say you have to find your significant other, it's just not dating someone and finding them. They have to have something specifically 100% exactly like you. So they have to be colorblind, or they have to, you know, have hearing loss, or frequent nosebleeds, or anything of that nature. Colin Farrell's friends that he meets in the hotel, like, meets this girl who has frequent nosebleeds, and to stay with her, he's gotta like hit his nose up against shit so that it looks like he's having nosebleeds. And there's this dialogue that he gives about his mom, and like she got turned into a wolf and sent to the zoo, and that he went to go hug his mom in the inside of the pen at the zoo. And I just like laughed. I had to pause the movie because I was laughing so hard. I couldn't even process what was going on in the scene because of how hard I was laughing. And it's just, it's exceptional. The way the material is conveyed, and you experience these people who live on the outsides of the hotel that have like escaped from this forced relationship that they want you to have. Which creates an interesting dynamic and a commentary on relationships as a whole and society's perceptions of relationships. This movie has a beautiful score as well. I love the chemistry between Colin Farrell and Rachel Weisz. I just really love this movie a lot, and I think that it's perfect. I don't think there's one thing I can pick apart from it. I think the cinematography is gorgeous. I think that all the performances are amazing. I think Yorgos had a vision, executed the vision perfectly, and yeah, I think everyone should watch this movie. It's a wild, wild ride. How close is your list to mine? Leave a comment down below and let me know what your favorite Yorgos is, what your least favorite is, and let's see how close our comparative lists are. I really love hearing you guys' opinion on film. I love hearing what you guys have to say. It's my favorite part of doing these reviews. As always, if you could like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot and lets me know what type of content you guys are looking for. I've got a lot of new content coming out in the future, a lot of videos, playlists I've got made. And as always, guys, thanks so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.